Okay, this is Standard 1, Part 2 of presentations. We're going to continue working on creating and modifying the different elements in our slideshow. So the next task we're going to look at is putting a transition on a slide. Now, a transition is different than an animation in that a transition occurs between slides and the animation occurs on slides. So transition means go from one state to another, or in our case, it's from one slide to another. So if water goes from solid to a liquid, it's melted, as we know, from ice back to water. So that's kind of the difference between the two. So transitions are found, conveniently enough, here in the Transitions tab. We can select a slide, and we can put the transition on it. This is our very first slide, so you may not want to put a transition on it because it's going to transition from nothing. You can see that it was just a black background. So you may or may not want to put a transition on your first slide. Let's move on to our second slide here. This is where it might make a little bit more sense, and so we want to make this more dramatic. We have a choose your own story adventure we're creating, and here's our first slide. So maybe we put it behind curtains. So the curtains will open up and we'll start to go. Now, if you're doing a presentation, consider your audience. Your audience may get bored by these pretty quickly. They look really cool. You can pull down a whole bunch of different options you have here. Like you're on the inside of a box. Let's put it on a conveyor so it just moves over. And again, I can change the options from right, from left. Let's pull down the other one right here I was looking at. Oh, the airplane. I can make the airplane turn into a, make it fly off to the left. So use these, but maybe use them sparingly, or even think about your audience as you're creating them. They may look kind of cool at first, but this glitter effect, after a while, if you watch your presentation, it's just not that cool after a bit. Okay, next up we're going to be inserting items into our slides. Now this is a typical slide here. We have placeholders for our title. We have a placeholder here for the content. Now if I just click in here where it says click to add text, it will just start to let me put my text. I can also, using these icons, click one of these to insert a table, a chart, some SmartArt, a picture off the internet, or a movie. I have the other option also of going to my Insert tab. There's a few more things I can do up here, like inserting a new slide and putting other things onto the slide. But for now, we're just going to insert an online picture. And it gives me some categories here. So let's click on Fish. And what it's searching for right now is Creative Commons. Creative Commons means it was designed so that if you properly attribute the picture, no one's going to get mad at you for copyright issues. If we choose to take that off, it's going to show us the entirety of things that are available on the internet. And let's just choose Mr. Flounder here. Okay, it's not attributed. We have to be careful about the Disney attorneys. This may not have even been drawn by them, but just don't try to claim this as your own, and I think you'll probably be okay. Editing is pretty easy. It's the same as what we were doing in Microsoft Word. Because we click on this item, we get the contextual menu up here, and we can do the same sort of editing effects that we had in Word. If I want to take out the background, remember I have this right here. I can grab the edges. Maybe I can grab the edges. I cannot. Let's discard that. So I have Flounder here. I can resize him, put a border around him, do the other things with it like that. So it's pretty much the same as what we were just doing in Microsoft Word. And again, when I'm done with him, I can just delete it. And I'm back to my placeholder so I can put in my next item, which is going to be a table. Now I could use the placeholder here, but I'm going to go to my Insert tab this time to insert. And when I pull down the table menu, it gives me the blank here. So it asks me, how big do you want your table to be? And you can see as I'm expanding that it's expanding right along with me. So maybe I'm just going to make it a 3x3, or maybe 3x4. I insert the table, and there it is. I can do the same sort of modifications on this table that I was doing when I was in Microsoft Word. Again, my contextual menu up here with the table tools, I can change the design and I can change the layout of what's in here. So maybe I want to have a total row. So just experiment with these things. Maybe you don't like that particular color. It's going to try to match what you've got selected for your theme. So pull these down, find one that maybe you like a little bit better, one that doesn't look completely awful. Yeah, I'm going to leave it alone for now. So I can also go to the layout and I can add more cells. If I decided I didn't make it big enough, I can insert a row below. And when I click off, it's going to keep up with my shading for me. So it's pretty simple. And again, you can just merge cells like we did in Microsoft Word. You can do all of that neat stuff that we were doing before with aligning it, making the cells wider, and whatnot. Okay, now we're going to be creating a chart. So if I click here in my placeholder, I have a couple different options here. We have the columns, lines, pies. Let's just choose the first chart that it shows us here and click. It'll take a moment to create, and there's two parts that you're going to be seeing here. The first is the data, and the second is how that data is going to be presenting itself here. So we have 4 categories labeled category 1 through 4, and you can see they're the different sections here. And we have series 1, 2, 3. So let me cut out for a second here. I'll enter some data and I'll show you how we can fix this and make this fit what you need a little bit better. But I'm going to put some data in here first. So I've added in some data here. I have Bob, Carol, Ted, and Alice. They're maybe my 4 employees. And I have their quarterly sales units. So quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. And this is the number of units that they sold of maybe a piece of machinery. I need to add in the 4th quarter information. So I can do that here. All I have to do to add one more quarter here is grab the corner of this little box. Let's click here. Grab the corner. When I drag this over, it's going to expand both of those selections, and now I have quarter 4, and you can see it was rather easy to add that. If I had to add another employee, let's put Mike in here. Okay, I can do this just by adding his name, and it was smart enough to select for me, and then I could add in Mike's sales units. I can close this, and once it's closed, if I need to re-edit the information, again, I'm in my chart tools, I go to design and I can edit the data. So it's going to open it up here, and then there's our table that we're working from. So I can also, if I don't like the design of it, I can change it just by clicking on these different pieces. That's pretty vivid. Click on that. So there's a lot of different things I can do with this. Change my colors. Let's add a chart element. Maybe I want to put something in here. So you see I have my units here on the left-hand side. I can put in different data labels. So I could put the numbers they have here. I could go to the legend, and let's put a legend off to my right so you can see it's by different quarter. So a lot of different customization that we can do. Again, in formatting, I can change some of the shapes and do some other things, but since this was designed to fit this presentation, I'm just going to leave the colors alone for right now. Let's add one more type of chart. So come back here, click, choose. Let's make a pie chart. That's one we're all fairly familiar with. I click OK, and here I have my quarter, and I have my sales data. Let me go enter some information, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've entered some data. I have a sales force, and I have this superstar salesperson named Pac-Man. So what I have is I have the sales data for the last quarter, the percentage of sales, or the proportion of sales made by Pac-Man versus the sales made by not Pac-Man. If I close this, I can do some formatting here. I can click, and here are some format point options. I was able to change the angle to make it look like it's Pac-Man that's running off here to the side, so I'll get my angle back where I want it to be. I could actually make it come apart a little bit. That's not going to do us any good though. I can start to format the colors of things. Oh, I need to pull that all the way in. I can format some of my colors. So if I go to select this, just that segment, come to my fill, let's go to, instead of automatic colors, let's go choose, of course Pac-Man's bright yellow, choose this slice. Instead of it being the brown, we're going to make it black so it blends more in the background. So you can see that I have the sales by employee. We have Pac-Man versus not Pac-Man. There's a lot of things I can do to play with it, but that just kind of gives you an idea of how we're going to be working with charts. Okay, next we're going to add some SmartArt. Now SmartArt's a way to visually present information. Let me just show you. So when I click on SmartArt, there are some predefined boxes and circles and different diagrams. Let's just choose a list. If I had a list of things I was trying to put in, I wanted to make it look a little fancier than just bullet points. Maybe I have a list here that divided by team or something. Processes, cycles. I'm going to choose a cycle right here. And don't worry if it's not the exact number of things that you need. I'm going to show you how to change that. So let's choose this one right here with the circles. We'll click OK. Now here I have room for my text. And again, I have the contextual menu that appears up top. So I can change some different things about it, change the colors. I can move them around. But for right now, let's start working on editing these. Now I can edit these one of a couple of different ways. I can either click right in the cell right here and put the information I want, or when I click on it, I can come over here to the left under the SmartArt Tools and Design and go to my text pane. Here in my text pane, I could just add the steps that I want to add. I cannot type today. Enter, there's act. You can see I accidentally hit enter right there and created a new circle right there. I don't need that one, so I'm just going to start coming in here and deleting, and then I have the 4 steps of the problem solving cycle: plan, do, check, act. If I don't like the way that looks, I can change it again, make it look a little different. Click off here, and you can see it looks a little more 3D. There's some different effects we can add. Maybe I didn't want to have this particular type, so I can change it. There we go. Plan, do, check, act. So it's pretty simple to insert these kinds of things. Let's look at another one. We're going to click on the SmartArt. Let's come over to our list, and maybe we're going to make a job list for everybody in the house. Or maybe you go off to college and you want to create a list of things that you and your dorm mates are going to share. So when I click this, you can see I have room for a picture. I have room for a person's name potentially here and what their tasks are. So let's put you, and we're going to put roommate number 1, call it roomie 1, and roomie number 2. Okay, so now I have you, roomie number 1, roomie number 2. You're going to be in charge of dishes. This roommate is going to be in charge of the bathroom, and this particular roommate is going to be in charge of vacuuming. So you can see I can add these here, and then when I want to put someone's picture in here, just click. Let's go to some online pictures, and let's find a person. Here we go. We'll just insert a picture here. When I'm done, there's one person, and again I can go back online pictures, search for a person. So we could put anyone's particular, maybe they're fond of puppies. Insert this. So it's pretty easy to add these things in here. When I'm done, I can close it. If I need to add more, I can do that. Let's go into my design tab here. I can move it from right to left. I can move them up and down, promote, demote, other things like that. So a lot of things I can do with the SmartArt. So let's add one more picture and put that one in here right here. Okay, so now I have the chart that I've created here. We'll call this the job chart. And it's pretty easy to graphically show the information that you're trying to convey to your audience. Our next 2 tasks involve putting in pictures. Now I can either put in a picture from a file that I have locally saved on my computer, or maybe on a thumb drive or something, or I can find a picture off of the internet. We'll just do the one that I have locally here. So when I click, it's going to give me a list of places I can go. I'm going to go to my pictures file, and here I have a picture I've pulled in of my granddaughter. So I'll insert this picture, and it's going to give me some suggestions here. This is a new thing that Microsoft is doing here. So maybe make that picture bigger. My wife would like that because she's just so darn cute, isn't she? Anyway, so I can click on this picture. I have the same options that I've had before, putting her in a frame, changing the coloring, corrections, moving background. So it's just pretty similar to what we've already been doing. You just have to go in and insert. The other option was to go to the Insert tab and put those in there. Okay, let's insert a video now. So I'm going to click on the Insert button here. Gives me some options. I could find something I knew was on YouTube. I actually have one saved here. I have some of the old Disney shorts. So what I've selected is the skeleton dance. It's going to take just a moment here, but you can see when I click it, it'll start to play. Now for our purposes, I'm not going to put this whole thing in here. Those Disney attorneys, like I said, are someone to be worried about. So I'm going to click on the video, and I have some options here under my format. I can change it, right? I can put it in a frame. I can do other things with it. I'm going to go into the playback, and I can make some adjustments here. So I could make it continue to play in a loop. So if it was a picture of someone falling down and getting hurt, you thought that was funny, you wanted to keep it playing the whole time the slide was up, you could do that here. You could make it play on full screen. You can make it just start when the slide does. So let's click it here. So let's just start it automatically when the slide starts. I can adjust the volume if I've got two different volumes of videos that I'm putting in the screen here. I could make it low, medium, or high. So let's put this on medium. I can also trim the video. This is pretty handy. So if I go to trim video, it's going to start to draw out all my sounds and everything down here. This is 5.5 minutes, and you're going to lose your audience pretty quickly. So I just want to get to the point of the Silly Symphony where we start to get the skeletons come out. So I'm going to skip ahead here. So I have the two cats. We're sitting here, and then I'm going to go for a little bit here where the skeletons are starting to dance. Kind of goofy looking. They're doing some sort of MMA right there. So I click OK. And now what I have is I have a shortened video, and I take out the portions that I want. And now when I click play, it just starts at this part of the video. And when it's done, it'll just get to the very end of my video here. Let's just finish this off. Okay. So I can just put in the pieces of the video that I want to have in there. I don't have to necessarily show the whole thing. Okay, let's go add a sound. So I'm going to come up to the Insert tab. I'm going to go to Insert Audio. It's in our media group. I'm going to pull up some audio off of my PC. Now I went and downloaded some Heavy Rain. So here's the sound I've got, and it's just a little icon down here. I can place it here off to the edge. When I click off of it, all I'll see is just that icon. Let's click it to play. It's supposed to be Heavy Rain, and it just sounds more like static. So let's adjust the volume, maybe put the volume on low, hit play. A little bit better, probably not what we're exactly after. But again, I can trim the audio, just like I did with video. If I don't want this to go quite so long, I can also, let's just make it 15-ish seconds. Click OK. I can fade it in and out. So let's fade in for 2 seconds there. Now when I hit play, it's getting louder as we go. Still sounds a lot like static, but oh well. That just showed you how to trim your audio there. Let me show you one more way to work with sounds. Okay, I'm going to show you how to use sound in two different locations. One will be with your transition on your slides. So let's put a transition on this that we want to have, perhaps this just uncover. So I have the transition added. On the far right hand side in the timing group, I can add the sound to it, and I can add other sounds, but I'm just going to put a drum roll on here so that now when this slide starts, I hit the preview. You can kind of play with that a little bit. If the sound is longer, you can make it longer, but if the sound just isn't anything longer than 3/4 of a second, then you can't make it go any longer. So let's test this. There we go. So that one still fit. So that's one way you can use sounds. Another is on the animations within a slide. I'm going to add an animation here to my granddaughter's picture. So I click on her, and I have the different options. Let's make her float in. Now again, I have all the other options here. I need to open up my animation pane though. And on the right hand side, you see I have the animation pane. I'm going to right click on this and open up the effect options. This gives me a couple of different things I can do. I can change the timing. I could do that up here. What I can't do is in the effects, I can't add the sound. So let's come down here. Let's grab the chime. Sounded pretty good. When I click OK, what you hear is that the picture comes in. It's got a little bit of a chime to it. So you can add a sound to your presentation that way. So let's insert an action button here. We're doing a create your own story, and we've been driving down a road, got a flat tire. Now I need to either decide, am I going to head to a cabin or am I going to walk into town? Normally, in my transitions tab, normally this box is checked that says that it's going to advance on the mouse click, and by default it's going to take me to my next slide. In this case, my next slide is just blank. Where I'm doing my create my own story and I want to create a navigation button, I want to make it navigate me ahead a slide or two, and maybe just put it all the way at the bottom here. So I have this text box. That's all it is. I went to insert. I inserted a text box. From that text box, I can just draw it right there. I put in my text. I changed the background color and the formatting so you can see this fits here. And there I just have my box. I'm going to delete that because that's not needed for what we're doing. Click this box. Let's go to my Insert tab, and let's insert an action. Now I can make it do a couple of things. All we're interested in doing right now is hyperlinking to our next slide. When I click on it, I can also make it so that when I mouse over it, if I put a little sign that says do not touch this to the side and you touch it, it would take you to a slide that does something else. But in this case, I'm going to make it when we mouse click on this particular text box, it's going to hyperlink me to someplace else. Where's it going to hyperlink me to? Well, I can go to slide, and here I have a list of the slides that I've created. Here's my final slide. This is the cabin. I click OK. When I click OK, this now has an action on it. So let's do the slideshow. Start my slideshow. That's obnoxious. I click on head to the cabin, and you see how it changes from a regular mouse to the pointer. That shows me there's an action there. When I click, it takes me to this particular slide. Another type of link I can put in is a hyperlink. So on this particular slide, my title says Google. I'm going to highlight the Google up here. In my Insert tab, I'm going to go to the Links group and pull down the link button, and I can insert a link. Now I could send us to a different place in the document. I could create a new document, do something else, send someone else to an email. I'm going to go to an existing file or web page. Now, you have to be a little bit more specific. If I just put google.com, it's not going to take us out to Google. I know this because I've been experimenting as I've been recording, and I'm re-recording right now. But however, if I put a www.google.com in there, it adds the hypertext link, and you can see I've got this. You want to double check your links as you put them in, as you're building your file or your presentation. I can now check this by either Control-click to follow the link, or I can start a presentation here. I can go to the slideshow. Now, one way to do this, to start a presentation, I can just do F5. That would start the slideshow from the beginning. If I do that, I'm going to go through all the stuff I've been looking at. So I just want to check it from my current slide. When I click here, you can see that my mouse is changing. It's giving me my address. I click on it. It's going to open up Google. There we go. Okay. And that's it for the links. Okay, and the last thing for this video, I'm going to show you how to add speaker notes to your slide. Now, speaker notes are handy if you are giving a presentation to someone else, or there's some details that you want to make sure that you don't forget to present while you're in the middle of your presentation. So, two ways to do that. I can either come down to the bottom and I can grab here and pull up, and here I can click to add notes. That is one way I can add them. Or I could just go to my view and I could click on the notes right there. Okay, and then there are my speaker notes right there. Put in my text. It says cutest grandkid ever. And there's one of my notes right there that I have. So these aren't going to show when I do my presentation, but they are there for me if I'm in the presentation mode. That presentation mode, if you want to be able to see your speaker notes as you're presenting, go to your slideshow tab, and in the monitors, if you have more than one monitor, you can use the presenter view. When you click on this, it's going to present for you on the screen. You'll have the one that's up projected, and then you'll have another screen that shows you your view, and it's got your speaker notes off to the side here, so you can use those to kind of jog your memory when you're presenting. And we are done.